Hello everyone and welcome to today's group Ironman Q&A stream. I'm your host Mod Ayiza and I'm joined today by mods Elena.
Hiya.
Hey, Mod Husky.
Yeah.
Mod Tide.
Hello there.
And a new mod joining the team, Mod Skylark.
Hello.
Hey. So if you haven't guessed it already, today the focus will be on Group Ironman. So if you have any other questions, they're probably not going to be answered. So if you are going to ask us in the chat, make sure they are Group Ironman related. We have a whole host of them that we've gathered over the last few hours since the blog went live. And we'll try and get through as many of them as we can today and do a quick round table of how everyone is doing. And then we can ask Mod Skylark some questions. So first of all, Elena, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Been working on the Deadman mode beta today, so that was interesting.
Yeah, how was it? What's it called? Controlling all of the systems and putting people through to the rounds.
It was a bit scary because there's a big button that says "kill everyone." So I tried to just control myself. Don't press that button. But yeah, no, it went well.
Good. Yeah, I really enjoyed your commentating. For those of you who don't know, Elena was doing some live casting for us behind the scenes. It was fantastic. Only it wasn't in English. I had no idea what was going on, but it sounded cool. Reckon we could maybe get a sneak peek one day, Elena? We can do your debut. Not right now, of course. Don't put you on the spot. Yeah.
Some Norwegian casting. Sure. Send me a clip. I'll do it.
All right, you heard it here. You got to do @JXElena. Send Elena some clips, and she's going to voice over them, do some Norwegian commentary. All right, Tide, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Been working on Hardcore Ironman recently. That's been interesting.
Ooh. Hardcore Ironman or Hardcore Group Ironman?
Hardcore Group Ironman, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Ironman. I was going to say, changes to Hardcore Ironman. Phew, my Hardcore is sweating at the Barrows Crypts right now, wondering what you're going to do.
Oh, don't worry. Next time you log in, you'll get smacked with a hammer. It's all good.
Okay, that's fine. It's all right. I want to perish anyway. I'm nearly 1,000 chest drive ARMs, so that's pretty depressing. But it is what it is. How are you doing today, Husky?
Yeah, I'm doing really good. Glad the cat's out the bag now with Hardcore Group. That's something we held close to our chests until we knew if we could deliver on it, and yeah, been pretty good apart from that. Well, including
good.
that. Not apart from that. That's
well, words including apart from words are hard. It's been a long day, so. And I'm sure you're gonna save yourself, Husky. I know you're gonna have plenty of words to speak later on. You know, the Husky special, the Q&A takeover. I'm expecting it. All right, Mod Skylark. First of all, hello. How are you doing today? Welcome to the stream.
Hello. I'm good. I'm very excited to be on the stream. Really nervous, but yeah, it's fun.
Don't be nervous. Just don't read the chat. That's my biggest piece of advice because it is very distracting. Okay. Yeah, I do it all the time and regrettably. All right, I guess it's. Oh, sorry. Go on. Go.
Sorry. I was gonna say I was warned not to have the chat open, so I do not currently. But I'll read it afterwards. So.
Okay. Well, that's probably also the worst thing to do. But you know what? You do you. And every time we tell someone not to read the chat afterwards, they read it back anyway, regardless. So I do the same. I guess it's important for you to maybe introduce yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
Cool. So I'm Mod Skylark and I'm a junior 3D artist on the OldSchool team. I joined just over 3 months ago now, and I've done little bits of everything, but I'm mainly going to be focusing on like character art for the game. So yeah, really excited. Been having a lot of fun so far. Excited to see what more I can do.
Awesome. Is there any kind of like work that's currently in game that players will have seen that you've put together, or maybe things that are to come that they could be looking forward to?
Yeah, I've only got a couple of things in the game at the moment, to be honest, which was some of the things for the Night of the Theatre rework. I put one of them on my Twitter account, some of the spiders. Other than that, I'm going to go with no. But I'm working on some really cool stuff, and I'm really, really excited to see it get in game and see the players' reactions.
Okay, good answer. No spoilers for now, but if you want to see some of Mod Skylark's work, definitely go and check out her Twitter @JagXSkylark. So what's your experience with Old School?
So Old School was actually one of the first PC games I ever played. To be honest, I got into gaming a little bit later than I think most people did. So I played it kind of just after it relaunched, actually. But yeah, before that, I'd only really ever played like web browser games and stuff. So it was like the first game that I think really piqued my interest in like gaming as a hobby. And then eventually, I mean, a few years down the line, here I am. Yeah, no. Got back into it again like about half a year ago, so bit of a noob, but I'm trying to get back to where I was on my old account.
That's okay. It's all right to be a noob. I'm a noob too. I would say that we're all noobs here, but I'm in the presence of Elena and Husky, both Infernal Cape Maxes, so I'm just going to keep quiet. And Tide is also definitely sweating out the game more than I have, so I shall remain quiet. We do have some typical questions that we normally ask new mods when they join, and I have to do it. It's a tradition at this point. So first one is, what is your most favorite thing about the game?
I think nothing specific, but like as a whole, just the aesthetic of the game is something like, it's so unique, and I don't think you see that kind of thing in games anymore. So it's, you know, for an old game, it's ironic how refreshing it is, and it's kind of like my comfort game. I think that's what I love about it the most. Yeah, just all the little bits of it. It's all good.
I guess it's quite fitting. You know, you love the aesthetics of the game, 3D artist. Probably picked the best role then, really. I'm sure that wasn't a coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, you go. No, I'm probably more interrupting. It's there's always a little bit of delay, so we'll get the hang of it once we get into the swing of the rest of the questions. All right, I'll just ask you the next question. I'm going to do the anti of that now. What's your least favorite thing about the game?
Oh, I had this kind of me and Modja, our concept artist intern, had this kind of running thing about the. It's kind of stupid. The female chain bodies in the game. They're like crop tops, and they're really cute, but they are not functional. Like, I fear for my character's life sometimes. So yeah, least favorite thing.
That's kind of quite common in games these days, isn't it? It's like some armor pieces, they just look absolutely ridiculous in terms of their defensive capabilities. They might look cool, but completely impractical. Maybe we should turn that around on its head and we start making practical armor. Not like the Easter egg armor.
Imagine.
The Bandos chest plate completely covers both my shoulders. What do you mean?
Yeah, and if you just look too quickly to the one side, you're going to lose both your eyeballs in the process. So, yeah, great piece of armor. Although I don't think we can touch that one. That's not completely alienate chat right now. If we say we're going to make changes to that, we might end up having to end the stream early. Okay, so we know what your favorite thing and least favorite thing about the game is. What about if you had the power to add anything to the game of your choosing without it needing to be polled? What would it be?
The artist in me would love to see some kind of like lighting or like lighting effects in the game. I think that would look really cool. Like nothing too like kind of in your face or anything. Just maybe like a basic like day or night cycle. Just create different moves throughout the day. I think that would be really awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Okay, all right. Safe choice. I respect it. And if you could remove one thing without a poll, what would it be?
The female chain bodies.
Hey.
Who would have guessed?
Okay, all right. Well, maybe we'll see it. I think that probably would need to be polled, but I'd be really interested in seeing how you could shift up the female chain body armor at least. We've done some graphical enhancements in the past, so I'm sure we can get some of those. Oh, someone's just said in the chat, there's a black rat in your room. No, that's just my dog. Woody, on your bed. Good boy. There you go. See, there's a very tame rat if that's the case. All right, let's go through some announcements. Thank you so much for that, Skylark. I really appreciate your answering the questions. Sorry for putting you on the spot there. Exclamation mark group Ironman. Oh, actually, hold on. Before I do that, is there anything else you want to say, Skylark, before I carry on going into the announcements? Because I'm just going to kind of like own the show for the next minute or so.
Not really. I'm just
Cool.
excited to be on the team.
Well, it's great to have you here, and looking forward to seeing some of your work come into the game. All right. Group Ironman. Group Ironman blog is out now. We're so pleased with your response so far. Thank you everyone that has gave feedback. We'll be diving into some of the questions during today's live stream, and we are still reviewing your feedback. We do expect to have an updated blog coming out soon, so please bear with us while we make some of those adjustments. In the meantime, though, let us know what you think about the blog. You can use hashtag Group Ironman on socials. If you do Group Ironman, follow the link, go to the very bottom. You'll see a bunch of posts, areas that you can give your information and feedback over to us as well. Very much appreciated. Following that, we have Deadman. Deadman Reborn being our latest PvP tournament, with players competing for a chance at winning some of the $32,000 prize pool. You may have seen that we recently did a beta for the 1v1. I do believe we'll also be running another beta next week to make some extra changes and just make sure everything is running as completely smooth as possible. Ready for the finals, which happen on the 17th of September. Make sure you save the date. We will be live streaming that. We're going to have plenty of content creators in coming and casting, as well as analysing the game after the fact. And last announcement is one for you, Skylark! New mod. I can't speak today. If you'd like to try a new mod Skylark some support, go check more of a workout on Twitter. That's new mod and at JagXSkylark. As I said before, we are going to be going through some Group Ironman stuff, including artwork. But first up, here's something that Mod Ash has been working on. And here we go. Maybe someone can talk about exactly what it is that's being shown up on screen here.
Is he just censoring the ass on the moss giant, or?
Well, let's just say it's a good job that moss giant didn't turn around, because those cheeks are clenched. All right, maybe. Is there a serious answer, or am I going to take this one?
Sure thing. So previously, currently actually, if you're an Iron Man and you hit a creature that someone else has been hitting, then you're not going to get kill credit for that kill. So even if you do the most damage, the drop will just not appear. It will be deleted. And you okay, Husky?
Sorry, I just can't stop laughing sometimes. That reading Twitch chat is breaking me. I've had to close Twitch chat for a second.
All good. Right. So what the icon is showing is if you're an Iron Man and you're hitting a creature that you typically wouldn't get this kill credit for, then you see this little icon. And it pops up and it tells you that you're not getting anything for this. So at that point, you might as well not finish the kill and go kill something else.
Awesome. Thank you for the explanation, Elena. I saw that this absolutely exploded on Twitter. I think it's something that people have requested for a very long time, and fantastic piece of work from Ash. So look forward to that eventually coming into the game alongside Group Ironman. Now we... oh, hold on. I should probably add before we move on to the next one. It is still a work in progress. It does work for existing Iron accounts, and it can be toggled off, and it will not be spammed on every hit. If you're not inclined to always be looking at the Moss Giant when this happens, you can also just look in the chat box, and a message will appear there too. All right, the next image to bring up are some Group Ironman armor concepts that have been created by Mod Rai and Mod Skylark, the concept being brought forward by Mod Grub. And as soon as we have you here, Skylark, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so obviously this is the new armor for Group Ironman and hardcore Group Ironman players. It's very, very similar to the original Ironman armor. Just because it's so iconic, it would kind of almost feel wrong to make something completely new. We wanted to keep to like the kind of original theme, especially those helmets, which are very iconic. You see the icons quite a lot throughout playing Ironman. Which I think that, if I recall, the helmets are kind of based on like gladiator helmets, which is really awesome and quite fitting. So yeah, Mod Grub put together the kind of concept for this. I think maybe one of the main things was having the numerals on the chest so that you could like really easily identify how many players are in your group. I did see a couple of comments on Twitter kind of saying like, is it a bit too big and stuff, but there were just some kind of limitations with how small we could make those and still keep it like really identifiable. So yeah, that's why they're quite obvious. and then we just kind of gave the like a coloured trim to the outfits just to really kind of spice them up a bit and make them really interesting. And I'm really excited to see a lot of players wearing these when it gets launched. It'll look awesome.
Yeah, I think they're really great pieces of kit. It's a shame that I'm definitely not confident enough to be making hardcore group Ironman. It sounds pretty brutal, so I won't be rocking that kit, but I'll catch me out there with my blue drip at least. The next piece of content coming in here is the Lumbridge portal for Group Ironman, and I believe this is probably one I can pass over to you, Elena.
I mean, sure thing. I didn't make it, but I've worked on the code a little bit. I think Tide actually wrote the code for it. But yeah, on the node, on the island, off Tutorial Island, you'll be going to the mainland via this portal. And there's a similar one in Lumbridge, but it will only be visible to Group Ironman and Hardcore Group Ironman. So don't worry about your nostalgia being ruined. You won't be able to see the portal unless you can actually use the portal.
Okay. Well, in hindsight, I probably should have asked Tide now, because I know that the next image that we're going to be showing up is definitely related to you, Elena. So apologies in advance, Tide. Don't worry, I'll make sure that I direct some questions your way as we get into them. Let's have a look at the node and yeah, take it away when the image shows. Oh, this is the other image. That's in Lumbridge.
Oh yeah, that's the Lumbridge one. I mean, I'll let Tide speak to this if he wants. He's worked more on the node than I have.
Sure thing. So on the node is just south of Tutorial Island, and that's where you'll be sent to instead of the mainland when you finish the tutorial. On the node, you'll be able to change your Group Ironman status by using one of those crates over there. You'll be able to learn about the shared storage from the bank tutor, and also group up before you get to the mainland there. A little bit more to the south, there's also some rocks and some monsters you can fight together, just to show you how working as a group works. And you can also trade together on the island, but if you haven't left the island before, you will only be able to trade the beginner items, because we don't want anyone losing any items just in case they decide, I want to be a normal Iron Man when they go off the island.
Yeah, I don't think players would abuse that in the slightest, would they? No, no, they wouldn't.
Trust everyone.
All right, yeah, trust everyone whilst trusting no one. Okay, the last piece of artwork to show up is titled Group Ironman Detailed Artwork, and this is by Mudrai and Mind Skylark as well. And I'll hand this over to you once more, Skylark, since you're here.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to quickly mention, so I did these assets, but it was Mudrai who actually put the, like, kind of the island together, like the mapping and everything. So yeah, I just need to credit him for that. But yeah, so I put together these assets. You've got like the crates, which Tide was saying you can kind of physically go and choose which version of the Ironman you want to be, and then statue just to kind of spice up the island, and then the portal, which Elena was talking about. So yeah.
Cool, thank you. And right, Mudrai's not here, but huge props to Mudrai. Love his work, especially the environment stuff that he manages to put together. It's always an experience. I'm sure there's going to be some little hidden things in there as well that we'll find when the update goes live. All right, we have some questions to go on to now. I believe, Skylark, is this the point that you'll be leaving us? Are you going to be carrying on through these without you?
Yes, I don't want to eat too much into the Q&A time, because I know that there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. So yeah, I will dip here.
Okay, well, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the stream. Thank you so much for answering the questions, and welcome to Old School and the community. Hopefully you get a bunch of followers. Don't worry, chat, I'm not kicking Skylark off. It is scripted. It says Skylark exits here. So yeah, thank you, and I'm sure we'll see you on a future Q&A soon.
Cool, I can't wait to come on for more. So yeah, it's really nice being here. Thank you guys.
Awesome. All right, first question. This comes in from N Fugo, and they ask, will Group Ironman be free to play?
Yes, it will be.
Nice and easy, thank you. James TBXX asks if there is an expected date. Now that we've brought this question up, I don't expect to see it in chat a single time for the rest of the stream. So please respect that. And someone can take this question. I don't want to answer it.
Yeah, I'll take it. It's soon, and that's the only answer we can really give. The reason why we can't give an answer is because there are engine commands which we don't know when we're going to get them as developers, and then we need to plug them into code to get features in. And we're doing the best that we can, but because we don't have a date on when we expect that to happen, and a release date internally, like based on us getting that. But if that doesn't get to us in time, then that may impact the release date, right? Or it means we cut a feature and release without it, and blah blah blah, that sort of stuff, right? So that's why it's really hard to commit to a release date, because really the people on this team, they're not part of the teams that have that bottleneck really right now. So yeah, we'll get a release date to you guys as soon as we can. I know people want to book like time off work and stuff and arrange and go hard at this sort of thing. So yeah, we'll keep you guys posted as soon as we can. But it's definitely cool. Like scope of months. Like you're not talking like next year. It'll definitely be this year.
Oh, Husky added a definite in there.
Oh, I said definitely.
That is a commitment.
Hey, if it ends up not being true, it's probably not based on a decision of mine anyway. So.
He's backtracking already. Okay, I mean, to add to that, there's two pieces of information that I can at least give that I feel confident in doing so. Well, first off, we've got a poll group Ironman in the first place. The blog only went live yesterday. We've got some feedback changes to go through. We'll get an updated blog out early next week, and then also poll it. The poll lasts for about a week or so. And we also have Deadman going on, and it won't be releasing whilst Deadman is live. So at least then you know when it's not going to be coming as opposed to when it will. And of course, it's got a pass still. So yeah, we'll see how it fares in the polls. Raiders, the next question, they are asking if we considered making hardcore group Ironmans only be able to PVM with their group, even whilst in Chambers and Theatre of Blood.
So we've seen this request. It's probably one of the biggest pieces of feedback we've had with the whole Group Ironman blog going out yesterday. And some people feel like it's really unfair that Group Ironman can just be carried through raids or Nightmare. And they want to be able to only group with the group itself and no outsiders can help you. I think that's very punishing to the average player, the player who maybe works full-time and plays in different time zones than their group mates, stuff like that. But I like this question because it focuses on hardcore, and I think that we could compromise by making it so that hardcore groups can only group with the group, whilst regular Group Ironman can group with other people, just for those pieces of content, of course.
Yeah, I really like that approach, and I was talking to Elena a lot about it yesterday, and the truth of the matter is that Group Ironman is supposed to be an easier Ironman, right? It literally is. So we don't want aspects of that to be harder than they are for regular Ironmans. And the whole time zone thing is a big deal. There are people giving a lot of this feedback who are very capable of soloing raids, right? And it's not an issue. But, these people, you might have one guy on the team who feels like he's okay at PVM. He's done a bunch of raids, never done a solo, but wants to group with his more casual friends. And, that person's job might be to go and get raid drops for the group, right? Other people are doing the skilling and stuff they enjoy. So I think that's the kind of reason why not doing it for regular groups. But it makes perfect sense for hardcore, right? I think it really does, because it's the flip of that is it's supposed to be a harder version than regular hardcore Ironman, right? You've got teammates to trust, teammates' internet connections to trust, and obviously there are no safe PVM deaths.
I just love that dynamic of that, whereas Group Ironman is easier than Ironman, but then you also have hardcore Group Ironman, which is harder than hardcore.
We've definitely received a lot of good feedback about that element of hardcore being actually hardcore, this brutal group game mode, and I'm really, really excited to see how groups come together, how friendships are made and also broken at the same time. Hey, call me a cynic, but I think that's one of the best parts about Group Ironman, especially with Hardcore coming out. Volkert has asked if we would consider having one single player-owned house for the whole group. That would be so awesome. That way we could store clue items together and have a central hub.
I think that would be really cool, but there is a pretty big tech limitation on that, because if you were to do it, currently we'd have to have one person would have to be online at all times to be able to access that player's house.
The other option, which, like we've spoken about this internally, how could we do it? How could we make this happen, right? And right now, player and house data is stored on the player, so you could just store that on the group instead, like the entity. First of all, it's not going to be really quick to access. Anyone who's experienced clans knows that there's like hey, you need to connect. Okay, now you've got the clan data, so that would actually impact on like skilling things. But even if we said that's fine and we're going to do it anyway, you have to rewrite the entirety of player-owned house code to have two different like sets of like data it can pull from. Make sure that they're plugged in correctly. Test everything in player-owned houses to make sure that it still works on both of them. So it's huge amounts of QA, huge amounts of dev work. And the truth of the matter is that, like, is that the most valuable thing that us devs could be spending time on? Because even my rough estimates, if someone said how long would this take to do, I don't know, single dev, 4 to 6 weeks maybe would be my ballpark, like including the QA time to go on it. And is that worth having over other features? I really don't think so. You know, there are a lot of people who are saying they want content, like there's lots of other player groups we need to do. Are there other things in Group Ironman that get lost because of that, right? Like, because that's like shared storage is a fraction of the time to implement. So, you know, a lot of people are going to say, oh, yes, do it because this is the only game mode I play and this is the most important thing to me. And they'll always argue that time is worth it. But that doesn't mean that it's necessarily the most valuable way we could spend our time, like as a team, right? And like not to mention, this is really prone to bugs. Like having that sort of system go out, like this would require a phenomenal amount of testing to get this right. So unfortunately, we get a lot of player requests for things a lot of the time, and we always have to decide what's more valuable to work on, right? What's the best time to gain for the players, and this is a lot of time for an okay amount of gain, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, definitely a fantastic feature, but I think, yeah, given the information that you just gave there, Husky, it's completely understandable. And hey, who knows? Maybe in the future, you know, as tech develops and enhancements are made, it becomes more of a possibility. We've all seen how much Iron Man developed from its first iteration, or its first release. Sorry. So I'm not one to never say never, but maybe in this case, you can't have your cookie and eat it at the same time. However, you did mention shared storage, and there is a question from Christina, who has said, is shared storage going to be separate from the bank, or will we actually have a shared bank?
So shared storage is one of those things where we're essentially waiting for Engine and working in parallel with them. Normally, when we request stuff from Engine, they make the command before we even start developing stuff. In this case, they are developing it as we are developing it, which means we're working very tightly, but it also means we might get held up because they're doing something, or we might hold them up because they need to wait for ways to test their command. That means that shared storage is one of those things that we might not be able to do for launch. It might hold back the launch, or we might launch it at a later date, but it's in the works, so we'll launch it at some point. It's just a matter of like, when will it happen? I know I like completely sidetracked that, but I just wanted to get that out, that shared storage is amazing, but it's technically really difficult to make. And I don't want to hold back the entire game mode just because of that. So just a heads up, it might come later. But when it does come, it would be separate from your bank. So you would have your personal bank and then a separate option probably on the banker to access your shared storage. Or maybe on bank chests. I'm not exactly sure, but it would definitely be separate.
Okay, awesome. I guess just for clarification's sake, if, say, shared storage was something that had to come out, after Group Ironman's launch, in that period, the way to transfer items will just be by trading the people that you have within your group.
Yeah, exactly. Normal trade is just fine.
Cool.
Obviously,
Okay,
like shared
thank you for that.
storage would be would be way better because then you don't obviously need to be on at the same time. Didn't even need to meet. But yeah, sorry. Go on.
And for
No,
what
that's
it's
great.
worth, I
Go on.
oh, on you go.
No, I was going to wrap up, so you carry on.
Okay, I've seen a lot of people go like, "Oh, you already do share storage in Chambers. Just copy and paste it. It's not that hard." That's temporary storage, right? It doesn't persist through logout. If you want a temporary storage facility only when you're logged in, fantastic. We could probably do that quite quickly. But I'd imagine you want to, not have the items delete when there's nobody online. That's probably a pretty MVP feature for shared storage, So yeah, let's let's try and get the new engine command instead of copy pasting from Chambers.
We should have just made group ultimate so we don't have to worry about banks at all.
Now you're sounding evil. Okay. From I'm not reading this name out because I feel like it's a bit of a play on words. Chat, you can have fun with it when it comes up. But they have asked if, they've said, it says in Group Ironman that within Chambers of Xeric, it will act like normal Ironman. Does that mean if you're only raiding in your Group Ironman group, you also cannot trade potions? Or is this only the case when there's also a non-Group Ironman player in the raid?
I think you can trade potions regardless, as long as they're in your group. I think the only restriction is the bank storage in Chambers itself.
I think from the shared storage, if you're all group Ironman in the instance and you're in the same group, you can access it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're the only group Ironman, or like say there's two, you're both in a group, and there's two other people who are raiding with you who are not in the group. The group Ironman won't be able to use the shared storage, but the group Ironman will be able to trade between each other, but they will not be able to trade with the other people in Chambers.
Cool. Okay. Hopefully that answers it. I know that this is also a point that got raised in feedback as well, so we'll look to have a bit more clarification in the updated blog when that comes out as well. All right, LMAO EU West, wow, has said, nothing has been said about banks. Any chance we could get any insight into the mechanics of it and the size of the bank available that will be individually /shared?
We're still
Hopefully that makes
working on, we're still working on how big the bank would be, so I can't say. It's a lot of back and forth because the bigger the bank, the slower potentially and bigger packets need to be sent. So the engine team doesn't want it to be too big, but then obviously we want it to be as big as possible. So it's a bit of back and forth on that. But yeah, mechanics wise, we will probably be looking at having the restriction of only having one person being able to use it at once. So if Husky and I are in a team and he wants to access the bank at the same time that I am, he has to wait because I'm already using it. But once I'm done, he can access it. Other than that, it's just pretty much like what you're used to. You click an item in your inventory, it goes in the bank. You click the bank one and it goes in your inventory. The only difference is I think you have to press a button to kind of save your changes, otherwise you will just revert back to what you used to have.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. I'm sure as things develop further, we'll be able to expand much more on shared storage and exactly how it will work. But as Elena mentioned earlier, it is still in development and things haven't been finalized as of yet. Merrick has asked us if, after completing the Western Elite Diary, you get one daily resurrection at Zora. Would this count as an actual death for Hardcore Group Ironman, or would it be considered a safe death? Similarly, the Jad and Fight Caves also have a daily resurrection after completing the Kramja Elite Diary. Is that also safe?
I believe for the revives, I've left them as a safe death because you've earned them really, and they shouldn't really count towards your death.
Okay, I think that's what I would expect as a newbie casual, given the fact that it doesn't lose your hardcore status in normal hardcore Ironman. I know that group hardcore Ironman is a little bit more hardcore, but it seems to make the most sense.
Yeah, it would count as safe as per the current implementation because it doesn't go through death code, right? It sets you back to full health and then says you get to try again. That's valid feedback if like players say we want hardcore to truly be your hit points never hit 0 in PVM, and that would be fairly easy to disable for hardcore groups, right? Just the revive doesn't trigger if players wanted us to based on feedback. I don't know. It's a good question though, and I think it's one definitely going to bring up again offline and see what team consensus is, and then obviously you guys give your opinions and let us know what you think as well. Because I think it is a big deal if hardcores can like farm Zulrah safely. Like everyone does Zulrah until they die at least once, and then they never do Zulrah again for the rest of the day, because that does change a lot of metas. So I think it's an important decision for us to get right before launch. I don't think Jad's as impactful, but it is more Slayer XP.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. Reeb OSRS, or maybe Reeby, apologies, I maybe just butchered your name, but they've asked if we would be adding a teleport crystal to Chambers of Xeric, Inferno, and Fight Caves, since they are considered a dangerous death for hardcore group Ironman.
No, they're going to stay the way they are. Fortunately, you just have to watch yourself or bring a teletap if you can use them.
You could take teleports in, right?
I don't think so. Not into.
If they don't
I
work,
don't
then
think you can.
I've never
I know
considered.
for chambers, obviously you can just leave the friends chat that you're in. But I know that that's not instant, which is probably why you'd want it here.
One-click telly is very important for like hardcores, right? Yeah, but instead of like having to go to a menu and hit right-click and then leave or something like that, or go through a confirmation. I know. Yeah, I think Ari// is in chat. Fight Caves you can, the other two you cannot. That sounds like a good feature for us to consider adding in the future. It's not something that would hold up the release, for example, but I think that we already spoke about when we implemented the TOB crystals internally. That are we going to have the same thing for Raids 3? That's a pretty cool way that someone can activate it on you, and do we want to roll that out to other content? It's just not required currently for hardcores, at least, but for hardcore groups maybe that's a reasonable thing to roll out like after launch to those pieces of content.
Maybe it would make sense to kind of have like a general crystal, so you don't just use the, how do I put it, you don't use one specific one for each type of content. So you would just talk to an NPC and get the same sort of like teleport crystal from Fight Caves and Chambers, and it would just generally be usable in both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there really isn't going to be a way to get out the Inferno, because the only exit is right at the back of the room, and Zuck is going to take you out. If you suddenly get to like, because you could just imagine a case where you have like a bad set of healers, like your healers are going really bad, you had like one brew left, and you're like, actually I'm not going to make this because I'm going to get another set, I'm going to tell you out, and that option just isn't there. So I think that's pretty valid feedback. I'm actually glad that was brought up.
Completely imagine that situation. I hate that when it happens to me. Whew, cannot relate. I do like the idea though of this global teleport crystal that you can purchase though. You'd obviously have to have a cost at least. The Theory of Blood one is 100k. I think if we're able to make a unified escape method. At least the way I would look at it is that it makes sense. We do it for the Theory of Blood, so why would we not do it for the other areas that are now dangerous? Maybe a little bit too mean, if not. Now, next question, before I embarrass myself any further, I don't know who I'm kidding, I'm going to do that anyway, comes in from Pendril. And they say, in the Summer Summit, it was mentioned that Group Ironman would get experience in PvP. Is this design decision still in play? And is group prestige preserved if members... hold on, there's two questions here. Let's cover the first one, and then I'll ask the second one afterwards. Group Ironman, do you get experience in PvP?
Yes, you do. Just a little bit. It's to prevent really niche builds from being fed items that they could then just use inevitably or indefinitely. For example, do I know examples? Like, you could stay at 10 HP or a really low combat, get items from your teammates, and then just never gain XP in that build and just PvP forever, which is what we're trying to prevent with this.
Yeah,
It
I
would
guess
also
if you
be a
want to have
service
one of those.
sell.
Oh, sorry, Husky. What did you say?
It would also be a service people would sell, right? Like, we obviously ban against services and stuff, but you don't want to incentivize people to be like, you know, selling, like, you join my group and then, like, I'll get like a really rare drop for you and you just sit here until I fulfill your request, right?
Yeah, I like that. I think it's one of those where if you want to have one of those prestigious builds, then Ironman still exists and that is available for you. How much experience are they going to get? Do you have an idea of how much it would be, Elena? You said a small amount?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. The second part of the question from Pendrel then is, will group prestige be preserved if members only leave the group, or does any change to the group remove prestige?
So prestige is only lost upon a new member joining. So if you leave the group, you won't mess up the rest of the group. You just kind of ruin your own status, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if there was a group prestige of like a size of 3 people, say for example one of them left, that would still be considered a group Ironman size of 3 in prestige, or would that go down to 2 and then be prestige?
It would stay the same size. A group can never decrease in size. It would just have like a gap where that person would be, right? And then you can recruit someone else into that slot.
And by doing so, would you retain your prestige then, or would it lose your prestige because you've got a new member in?
At the moment that you invite someone, that's when you lose it. Or the moment they join, I guess.
Okay. Perfect. All right. I think I probably covered enough of the points that kind of came up in there that started like fluttering into my head. Was there anything else, Husky? I cut you off at one point there.
No, I just think it does kind of suck, like, because you'll be a 4-man group that it's 3 with a gap, and there's no way to fill that gap if you want to keep your prestige. But prestige it's one of those things that's like, we have to be harsh with that sort of thing, otherwise it means nothing, right? Like, there's no weird exceptions, to getting around it. Like, it just is what it is. So if prestige is something your group cares about, select your teammates carefully, right? Figure out, if you're planning to play this game mode like non-stop for the next year to 2 years, make sure your friends are as well, right?
Okay, makes sense. All right, this is a long question. I'm going to try my best to get through it and make sense of it. This is from FitMed Cook, and they have said, are there any plans to change the point system for rewards in Theatre of Blood? With Group Irons being able to join other raiding teams, we will see them getting Theatre of Blood drops within the first week due to the drop mechanic, rewarding players simply for being in the raid without doing much damage. A point system similar to Chambers of Xeric would discourage boosting, though Chambers of Xeric boosting is also an issue. It's less extreme, since Theatre of Blood gives significant points for just being in the room and not dying.
I like this approach. I don't think we'll be doing anything with TOB for the launch of Group Ironman. But I do think that if we make that hardcore change that we talked about earlier, with hardcores only being able to group within their group, then that would cover some of this, right? I think going the route of changing TOB itself is way bigger than the scope of this project, but I think that's a good change because it also affects regular Ironmen. So that means that regular Irons as well, they can't just leech off of someone else.
Okay, that makes sense. I just saw a question come up through chat actually, and I think it's probably a good time to bring it up now. With the way that we're potentially looking at making a change with Hardcore Group Ironman, only allowing you to group with people that are in your actual group, could we potentially expand that as well over to Prestige Group Ironman, where a Prestige Group Ironman remains Prestige as long as you do all activities together as your group, but if one player in your group decided to go off and raid with someone else, you would lose that Prestige status?
I've seen the request come up
mean-
a lot, and I don't know. We haven't had a discussion internally about it. We've got a meeting, I think, tomorrow to discuss a lot of the common feedback, and I know that's something there. I think the idea has merit, but it also like warrants like trying to think of the pros and cons to that, right? Which I don't know. So it's really hard to answer that properly on a live stream, but we've seen that suggestion at least, right?
Yeah, definitely. In my head, I'm like, because currently the way we do Prestige is that we have all of the we have systems in place to prevent people from coming in and boosting a group by giving them a bunch of items and then bailing again. It's called the gradual wealth transfer system, as well as a 1 KC requirement. And these things are only in effect if the group is not Prestige, right? So if you then unprestige a hardcore group upon raiding with someone else, then suddenly you have all of these systems as well working on you. You suddenly have like a bunch of restrictions on the group, and we'd have to change that system quite a bit.
Okay.
I
see.
So it just means a lot of work for us, basically. But what we could do as well is like expand the prestige system, I guess, to have like a. So what if you had like more layers of prestige, if you know what I mean? So you could have like a semi-prestige and then full prestige. So raiding with someone else, you fall down to semi-prestige. If you invite someone else, you don't have prestige at all.
Okay, all right. Multiple layers.
Yeah. What I would say is keep an eye on the blogs. We pretty diligently have a feedback section at the top of the blogs. Usually in the week they come out, if not the week after. So once we have our meeting tomorrow to discuss it all, expect to see a change list at the top. And if we have gone with this, then great. We'll explain why. And if we haven't gone with it, we'll probably also explain why. So yeah, I think it's a cool idea. Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. And sorry for kind of like throwing you in the spotlight with that question. What is it with the names today? Old D's Nuts has asked if people will be able to share God Wars dungeon instances with each other. I assume that means, groups. Will they be able to have their private instances shared with the group?
I believe the Iron instance will be shared, but the private instance that you get from combat achievements would not be shared. We can clarify that in the blog as well when we fact check that.
Okay, thank you. Would the Ironman instance be separate for Group Ironman, or would it be shared with Ironman as well?
It would be shared.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, Jamie Judd 1992 has asked if there will be a quest that only Group Ironmen can do together. Probably not.
There's a cool suggestion.
Shield of Arrows?
Oh.
I assume this would be like a new quest only for Group Ironmen, rather than quests that exist at the moment. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
The problem is we couldn't come out with a quest only for Group Ironmen, and the question would be, how would normal accounts do it? Do they then have to do it in their clan? Like.
Oh my god, normal people have to get friends and do the quest with normal people, but then it's not just an only Group Ironman. Do you know what? I'm just going to say no. I'm sorry, I know I'm not a developer, but no, I will not allow that to happen. I'm joking, sorry.
On the topic of this though, should Shield of Arrow only be completable with your group?
Now we're talking.
No. What if you're an odd number of people? Exactly.
Only 4 if you get to complete Shield of Arav.
Well, Mookie, you chose to. What was the age-old community response is you chose to limit yourself. So,
I saw an interesting chat idea question that was cool. Like we've said, you can't trade untradables, which makes sense for a group Ironman. And I don't know if it's technically possible. I don't know if this is controlled on engine side or our side. But what if we allowed them to trade clues? You imagine the idea of like the group worked together to complete a clue, and you didn't have the requirements, but you did. I don't know. That just sounds like a cool idea. I don't know. I'm just
tradable clue scrolls within group Ironman.
That just sounded like a cool idea, because like it's that idea of like you get the step to be like, oh, you need an abyssal whip, and this guy in your group has the Slayer. Like just clues as the only tradable. I don't know if we can do that, but that sounds like a cool idea.
I think you'd need a custom system for it. You can definitely do it, but you'd have to make all the clue scrolls like tradable, but then add a new param on them instead. Yeah.
It definitely sounds like a post-release thing, and not. It would be a lot of work to do it pre-release, right? When I said soon, I meant soon. So, assuming it passes a poll. So, I think that's such a cool idea for like things like that. And this is the thing that we do this. Like we've made changes to Ironman since release. Obviously, like some would argue, game mode's a lot easier. There are things like quality of life for them. This sounds like a cool. Like, I imagine we'll probably do the same for like group irons, like specific rule changes or like exceptions for them or for hardcore groups and stuff. So yeah, I just thought the idea was cool.
Okay. I saw you a few times tied. Hopefully you were trying to chime in. Was there anything you wanted to say, or am I just making a really awkward situation now?
I was just going to say that there'd be a lot of work you'd have to do because it's all linked to the player. For most of them anyway. Okay. Most of the different types of clues.
Yeah.
Well,
that would be a lot more
all right,
work.
Before we...
That is cool.
Yeah, before we carry on going on about more work, we probably could, but let's answer some more questions. Sorry to cut that one short, but from Black Belt 5, they have asked a question about Group Ironman username creation. I understand that new groups must be fresh accounts, but can we create an account now to secure a username, log out before finishing Tutorial Island, and then log in on release date to become a Group Ironman? Or do we have to wait until Group Ironman is officially released to create a new account?
As long as you don't leave Tutorial Island, you can use that account.
Cool.
One thing I did, and I wonder if there's any other people in the chat who've done this, is I've got an account with some league points on it that I'm ready to make into my group. I think I've got the Slayer helm on it, the Ulm Slayer helm. So yeah, waiting for that.
That's a big flex.
Okay. Someone said something rather untoward in the chat a moment ago. Why'd you only ask the pointless questions with no substance? I mean, I feel like a lot of the questions today have been very high quality. I will be honest, there's been a lot of information shared regarding Group Ironman today that isn't normally apparent in other streams. So maybe if people see those comments coming through, we can shun the non-believers, because I'm about to drop some more facts on you. And this comes in from OPOP901, and they ask if the 1 kill count requirement will apply for all bosses or also Slayer monsters. For example, will you need 87 Slayer to equip a Trident or 85 for a Whip?
I think it's just linked to you killing... It'd be linked to you killing the creature, wouldn't it? So you would be required to kill the creature, so you would need the level, or you can pie.
Yeah.
I'll find the list if I can.
It's all tied to variables for the KC. So if you have a KC, then you should be able to wield it. Obviously, that KC may have soft requirements, right? You'd need 70 agility or boost up to 70 agility to go access Zilliana, for example, or 85 Slayer for an Abyssal Demon. But like Tide says, you can pie up to 85, so you don't need it.
I'm going to check and see if I can find the list, because I know that's been heavily requested. Like, oh, you mentioned the concept in the blog, but the entire full list of what's included. I'm trying to see if I can find the link now to that page. But the biggest reason for it, and I know there's some people really against it and say like that's against the spirit of Ironman or Group Ironman, I should be able to trade things in my group. But if we don't have some sort of content lock or like gradual wealth transfer and all this stuff we've done, you essentially could have a lot of like, I know like we say like services against the rules and we ban people for it, but you will have people say like, I'm selling like a bunch of like raids items or chambers items because I'm done with Group Ironman, so I'm going to leave my group with all these items, go to the node, invite 4 new people in, give them all that stuff, and then like it's going to be a meta to like do that stuff or to sell that stuff, which is just something we're not okay having. So yes, it sucks that we add the restrictions on, but it is for the integrity of the game mode that we have to do things like this. But those restrictions don't occur for a prestige group, right? So a group that has stayed the same from release, it literally makes no sense for us to apply any restrictions, right? So it's just something that we have to do to protect the idea of like boosting up Group Ironman accounts, because it should be what your group achieves, not like what, you know, someone who left you the group and transferred group ownership to you and handed you a bunch of supplies achieved. So it's really annoying because anything we do to stop that will impact legitimate players who were not doing that. And that's just the really hard decisions that need to be made sometimes when you're like designing content or doing this, is unfortunately you have to consider how could this be abused, because I think I heard a quote from someone, it was talking about game design theory and stuff, but it was like, players will take the shortest path to the goal, and that is not the player's fault, that's the developer's fault for making that path available, right? You know, so it's just something we have to really consider.
I think that was a post back in 2010. I remember the post myself. I read it quite recently, actually. Question, I've seen some people wondering in the chat, would this apply to all forms of Group Ironman groups, or just non-prestige? So prestige and non, or everyone?
Only non-prestige.
Only non-prestige.
Which means it doesn't affect hardcores at all, because they're prestige by default. Like, a hardcore can't not be prestige.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So if you had a prestige Group Ironman group, someone, you know, bossed it out to 85 Slayer, got 3 whips, they could dish that out to the rest of the team that has 1 Slayer?
Yeah, that absolutely can be a case. Will be the case for prestige groups, which is why it puts that emphasis on like making your group from the start and sticking with it. It's a case of like we have to let other people join the group and for a non-prestige thing to exist, because otherwise, like one person leaves, you're in a 5-man group, and everyone goes, "Oh, well, I'm quitting too," because there's no point playing as 4 people competing in 5-man. Giving the option to recruit in makes a lot of sense. And like people talk about like, you know, there's ways to get around it. Like you could just boost someone through a Chambers as Eric, right? Like they don't even need many stats,
Sure.
but it's just putting enough barriers of entry, and that becomes harder. Like the more difficult the content is, or the more people there are. So like one person boosting, yeah, sure. There's probably a good number of people who could solo a Chambers and then do that. But obviously the wealth transfer caps happen. So someone would have to wait like 5 weeks and solo a Chambers of Zerek and have the people sitting there for 5 weeks waiting to eventually get a Twisted Bow. Yes, it kind of gets around a bit, but there's also a lot of other useful drops that won't happen. And then if you expand that to like Theater of Blood, you're probably gonna want like 2 people. And even then, like duoing a top it's not super hard, but it's pretty hard. So you need 2 people who are really, really good to do that. And unless you're like a cold one and you like solo it, right? Or, you know, Kriskis or any of these people that are gods, you know. So it is still a thing, but the 5-week time as well as the skill level required to do it, like it's just about having those barriers to entry.
Sure. Okay, makes sense. Thank you so much for the clarifications. If we can just quickly go over this one, because I think we've kind of covered it already, but it is a good example just for those that may have joined late and maybe didn't hear the conversation regarding Prestige. Banraw has said, what happens if only 2 out of our 5 men or man for Group Ironman can log in right away to play Group Ironman, and then we invite the 3 later on? Will we forfeit Prestige as well as initiate the boosting restrictions?
You would, yeah. You will have to have the entire group there on launch to keep prestige status, essentially. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the clan formation system, but it's basically doing the same thing when you're creating a group. So you have this temporary party that the leader invites people into. And once the leader is happy with the amount of people that are in the party, they click to finalize it. And once that's finalized, that is the group. The group size is set, the name is set, the amount of people are set, the hardcore status is set. Any change after that, so like anyone leaving and then someone else joining back in, that would lose you prestige status.
Perfect. Thank you, Elena. So if anyone is worried about that concern, Group Ironman will be free to play, so you don't need to worry about membership. Just get your friends to log in for quite literally 2 minutes, set the group up, and they can log out then until they're able to come back in at a later date, and your group will remain prestige. You'll just be a few people short. MandrewRS has asked, when an entire hardcore group dies, will they be able to compete on the non-hardcore high scores, similar to when a hardcore Ironman dies now?
Yes, they will be visible from the start on both.
Yeah.
Cool.
So-
okay.
Sorry, you go
Similar
on.
to similar to how like hardcore irons work, right? It's kind of two separate branches. Like group irons won't be on the Ironman high scores, and group hardcores won't be on the hardcore high scores. It's like it goes main, iron, hardcore as like the tree of like high scores you're on, or main, group Ironman, hardcore group Ironman. They're like two separate branches. So if you're on a group Ironman, you're on group Ironman and main. If you're on hardcore, if you're hardcore group Ironman, you're on hardcore group Ironman, and main.
Okay, great,
That makes
thank you.
sense.
Yep, did to me anyway. If not, unlucky. Moose Manor has said, will there be a group collection log? Even if it's only refreshed whenever there's a server update or once a day, it would be far more fun and reasonable to attempt to complete the log this way.
It won't be for launch, no. It's something I think sounds really, really cool. I'd love to have it, but no, we're not doing this. At the moment, anyway. Would love to consider it in the future, though.
Okay. If it was something that was added in the future, do you think it would be reasonable that we would be able to retroactively add items, given that the collection log exists now and we can see items being added to it?
As long as it's tracked on your player, then yes. My only question is, like, what would happen to it if you contribute to it, but then you leave? Do you then remove the item again from their log, It has a few things to figure out.
A little bit of fine-tuning and clarifications needed. But okay, that's good to know. Thank you, Elena. Just 7155 has said, what if I was kicked and I still want to be in a high-level group? Am I forced to create a group with a bunch of level 3s?
Yes. When you're kicked from the group, so first of all, it's like there's a 7-day period. You can't just be instantly kicked. Obviously the leader can kick you, and then there's 7 days grace period. At which point you get a choice. You either continue as the same group size and recruit more people to join your group. Doing so means you forfeit like all your tradable items, though, right? Which is the big thing. It's one of the preventions for like boosting, like, if you want to be a group Ironman and you were in that group and you got kicked or left or whatever it was, but you decided to take all their stuff and make another group Ironman, you're not getting to take that stuff and make a new group, right? So we wipe your tradables. Or if you want to keep your items, you can go and become a main, and that's fine. That's how that kind of works.
Awesome. Maybe just 7155. The best thing to do would be maybe if that's what you're already planning for, consider changing your approach to gaming so you don't have to worry about getting kicked, because you probably don't want that to happen. It's not even released yet, and man's out here worrying about being kicked from the group. It's not a good sign.
Just don't go flaming everybody, or make sure you're friends with the leader.
Just be the leader.
Or be the leader, exactly. All right. I am gonna answer one more question or ask one more question, and then I'll recover the announcements because we have gone over a little bit here. This comes in from Engineered Muffin, and they have said, with more irons possibly coming into the game, could we get an update on if there will be a way to pay for bonds from Death's Coffer's value or some other mechanism to prevent people from needing mains to sell off duplicate loot to fund bond membership?
I wouldn't have thought it'd come from. Well, it wouldn't come from Death's Coffer because if I remember correctly, you get an increased value of what you put in there. So that would be bad. But I think you might be able to buy bonds straight from the G as an Iron Man.
That could be an interesting concept. Iron Man buying bonds rather than needing a main.
There's been some talk about doing that, yeah. There's no need for a main to... Well, there shouldn't have to be a need for it to have a main just to bond you up, you know?
Yeah.
So, if the irons could just buy the bond, then that'd be good. Obviously, they couldn't sell it. It's not a money-making way. It's just literally just a different way of getting membership.
Okay. It seems reasonable if it was just a purchase only, a one-way transaction. You get bond, and you spend gold. Because eliminating the need to have another account just to do that act itself is it's double the cost of upkeep, especially, and prevents. It does introduce some risks with having to transfer items across from an Iron Man to a main as well. So, cool. Thank you so much for answering. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say you still wouldn't be able to sell your items.
No.
No. But I mean, like selling your items by trading them to your main to then sell. That's what I was referring to. Not your Iron Man selling items. Like hell no, that's not going to happen. You'd need just the GP. Thanks for clarifying. I didn't want to leave that there. Go on, Husky.
I found the list.
You want to go?
I found the list of items that are blocked by content restrictions. So it's basically every Slayer boss, Wildy bosses, Chambers raids, Gauntlet, DKs, Sarachnis, God Wars dungeon stuff. Nightmare, Basilisk Knights, Drakes, they're all Slayer stuff. Demonic Gorillas, Barrows.
Okay.
If I've missed something, it's probably because I was scrolling through a list quickly and missed it. So, but that's generally what we're looking at.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate you going back and finding that, Husky. If anyone was wondering, that was in relation to the question regarding minimum kill count required, and also skill levels that you would need to be able to equip items such as a whip. That only applies to non-prestige groups. All right, that is as much questions that I can get through today. So let's go back over the announcements one last time. We've always been talking about Group Ironman, so !Group Ironman in the chat will put you towards the Group Ironman blog, which is out now. It was released yesterday. We are so pleased with your response so far, and we'll be diving into getting your feedback reviewed into an updated blog that will hopefully be coming out early next week, and then you should expect a poll to be happening shortly afterwards. If you have anything that you want to let us know about Group Ironman, #Group Ironman on socials, reply to the Reddit thread, the forum thread, use Discord, or use the Steam community forums as well. They're all linked into the bottom of the news post in !Group Ironman. The next one we have is !Deadman. Deadman Reborn is our latest PvP tournament with players competing for a chance at winning some of the $32,000 prize pool. We've made some changes based on player feedback, so make sure to check out our game update news post today to see what's changed. Also a reminder, we'll be live on the 17th of September for the final event, streamed live from this Twitch account. Make sure you save the date, and we'll also be hopefully putting up another beta next week. We'll share information about that tomorrow. And then last but not least, we were joined by Mod Skylark, who is the newest mod to the Old School team, !New mod. If you'd like to show Mod Skylark some support, go check out more of her work on Twitter. And I just want to say a massive thank you to Mod Elena, Mod Husky, and Mod Tide for joining me. Thank you to Mod Spear in the background. No, Mod Druid in the background for helping me out, maybe Mod Spear as well. I've been told it's just Mod Druid. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your support for today. And of course, thank you to everyone who asked us questions. Thank you to the chat for being wonderful as always. Any closing words from anyone else? I realize I never really do it, so I'll let you have your chance.
If there's any further questions, feel free to tag us on Twitter. I know myself, I've been very active the last few days, just reading everything about Group Ironman on the blog and stuff. So please do reach out if we didn't cover it already. And if it's not covered in the blog, do reach out. We'll try to get through it. And yeah, hope you enjoy Group Ironman when it comes out.
I also put out a tweet, not related to Group Ironman, which the streams have been about, but there's any PKers and people playing Deadman, looking to play in the finale, that sort of thing. If you have any further feedback on some of the sigil balancing changes we made this week, I put a tweet out asking to collect that feedback to see if there are any additional changes we should make before next week. That's pretty much the cutoff for making them. We need to give people time for the sigils in the final state before going into the tournament. So yeah, if you've got any feedback for that specifically, please leave it there. I haven't had all that much on it. I've had a few things to consider and a few things that aren't related to sigils at all. So, but yeah, if you've got any thoughts, please leave them there.
Cool. I don't really have anything to say.
Okay.
If you do want to know anything, just at me at Twitter. I'll give you a response. Any hardcore Group Ironman questions you want to ask.
Okay, awesome. Those asking for my dog, I'm sorry, he's eating his dinner right now, and I'm not going to interrupt him. He loves his food. So I'm just going to say, yeah, take care, everyone. Enjoy your evening. Have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you next week.